As the debate over CBDCs seems to continue to intensify, do we actually believe that the government or members of the government are struggling to make this decision, or are we all just watching a show? Welcome back, everyone. We are going to dive into some CBDC discussion. That's right. The bill passed to ban CBDC issued by the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve's efforts to issue its own CBDC in vain. In a significant development on Capitol Hill, the House Financial Services Committee has approved a legislative measure to limit the prospects of a U.S. central bank digital currency. The House Financial Services Committee, led by Chairman Patrick McHenry, took a clear position on the issue of CBDCs. The committee's decision, which received strong Republican support, is based on the belief that any U.S. CBDC must receive explicit authorization from Congress. This determination is supported by a commitment to safeguarding both the privacy of U.S. citizens and the stability of the national financial system, given the potential risks associated with a CBDC. You have to pay extra special attention to the language being used because, in my eyes, of course, right, the tinfoil hat, I believe we're just watching a show. Anyways, I'll comment on this a little bit more at the end. Let's finish up the article, but I find the language so remarkable. They just play pretend. They just pretend that they care about anything. Like, just that last statement there, that the commitment to safeguarding both the privacy of U.S. citizens and the stability of the national financial system. How many booms and busts have we had? Right? Like, the government can't seem to stop printing money to fund ridiculous services and supporting ridiculous causes. The bill passed seeks to proactively ban CBDC pilot programs before they are even proposed. It also seeks to prohibit the Federal Reserve, the Fed, from issuing a retail digital currency that could be used for surveillance purposes. In essence, the bill seeks to ensure that any progress towards a government-backed digital token is subject to explicit congressional authorization. They're not saying no. They're not saying no. They're just laying the groundwork to let you know what it's going to take for it to be approved. That's all. They're just telling you what the field of play looks like. That's all there is to it. The same way that AML KYC simply provides a roadmap for the criminals to follow. This is the same type of thing. They're letting them know, hey, listen, look, you guys want to put this through, it's going to have to go through Congress. So now you know exactly who you got to go bribe and who you got to turn the screws on. Just my opinion. Anyways, the disparity of views between the House and Senate underscores the complexity of the CBDC debate and the difficulty of reaching consensus on this issue. That's right, guys, because this is very important. And look, the governments are known for looking out for their people. And that's exactly what's happening here. They're thinking of the little guy here. Maxine Waters' opposition to defending the Federal Reserve CBDC. Congresswoman Maxine Waters expressed concern that this bill could hinder the United States in its quest for a global standard for central bank digital currencies, a race in which other countries, particularly China, number one, quote unquote, enemy, but that's not really true because most of our stuff is imported from there. It's not really an enemy, okay, in any way, shape, or form. So you could see that the point of view from Congresswoman Maxine Waters is, well, wait a second, another country is going to become number one if we don't create the surveillance money first. Guess what? China already created the surveillance money. So, it doesn't really matter. Waters warned that such obstacles could potentially lead to the dollar losing its status as the world's reserve currency, causing U.S. citizens to lose the benefits of faster, cheaper, and easier payments. So check this out, right? Do you see the way the article is formed, right? They're letting you know, hey, listen. The government is having a very hard time with this, and they're looking out for your best interest. But at the same time, buried in the article, it's like, hey, wait a second. If we don't do this, we're going to lose the benefits that we have, the faster, cheaper, easier payments. So I know this is going to sound crazy, but people in like really, really impoverished countries, they're able to use Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, believe it or not, I know it's going to sound crazy, it works at the same speed no matter where you use it anywhere in the world. I know it's nuts. It's nuts. But yeah, so this is bullshit, okay? And they're essentially what they're doing is they are concern trolling. They want to make sure that you're worried and that you, by your own choice, your own your own decision making based on the information available, come to the correct conclusion. And the correct conclusion is we need to stay on top. We need to stay number one. And in order to do that, you just need to give up a little bit more of your freedom so that we can monitor you a little more. Listen, we need to stay number one, and you need to maintain your benefits of faster, cheaper, easier payments. Just give a little bit more of that freedom up. Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Michael Barr emphasized that the central bank will not proceed with CBDC initiatives without explicit direction from the White House and the backing of congressional legislation. So nobody's saying no, guys. All they're doing is letting you know what the playbook is to get it done. This cautious approach is in line with the Fed's commitment to making informed decisions in the interest of the U.S. economy. So just remember, guys, okay? The fact that 99% of our purchasing power has evaporated in the last slightly over 100 years, this was in the interest of the U.S. economy, okay? The fact that your salary, the average salary, hasn't kept up with the rate of inflation, don't be upset about that. What you're missing out on is that's part of the Fed's commitment. The Fed's commitment in the interest of the U.S. economy, okay? And right now, the fact that the average person can't afford a house, guys, I'm sounding like a broken record. This is part of the Fed's commitment to making informed decisions in the interest of the U.S. economy, okay? Because you may be affected by this, but in the grand scheme of things, it's about the U.S. economy. And this is how we dehumanize things. This is how we create these weird type of situations where somehow a human being becomes part of the government and is now enlightened, is now capable of making decisions beyond their own personal incentives. They're now endowed with superhuman strength, being part of the government. These people are freaking nuts, okay? And this is the type of shit that money printing causes. When you do not have to answer to anyone, when you can create money out of thin air, when there is, in this particular case, because of the system that we have, this is how you end up with a bunch of megalomaniacs that can't stop spending your future until there is, not just your future, our future, until there is absolutely nothing left. The clash between supporters and opponents of CBDCs reflect a broader debate over innovation. No, it doesn't. Monitoring is not innovation. This is not innovation. Removing freedom and replacing it with security, right? Security, so to speak, that's not innovation. That's just a form of slavery. That's all it is. So just to wrap it up, the clash between the supporters of opponents of CBDCs reflects the broader debate over innovation, privacy, and the future of the US dollar on the global stage. I don't think we're watching a debate at all. This is what I've said in the past, and I will continue to say it. We're watching a show. We're just watching a show, and they're providing the circus and the bread, and we're all just watching the entertainment. Okay? So this is not about whether or not there's going to be a CBDC. No. There is most likely going to be a CBDC. And guess what? It's going to be made possible because the people are going to ask for it. Okay? That could be one of the ways that it takes place. I forget actually who said this quote, but essentially, there's no better prisoner than the one who demands their own shackles, right? And this is exactly it, right? Like look at the concern trolling that they inserted into that article on purpose. We are going to lose our benefits to faster, cheaper payments if we don't do what they say. Okay? You got to do what they say. So we better make sure that Congress is on board. right? Got to make sure that Congress is on board with this so that we can stay number one. I'll tell you something. I'd be very curious to see what would happen if the US government would start announcing that it's purchasing Bitcoin. Not that it really makes a difference, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like we would have access to it or anything like that. But I do think I do think that while the world seems to be racing to this totalitarian, dystopian, monitoring everything psychotic BS, I somewhat feel like the country that would stand up for freedom and the freedom to communicate, part of the freedom to communicate is the freedom to um, communicate value, such as sending money back and forth without censorship. I wonder if those countries are going to be ahead in the future and not the totalitarian, dystopian countries that we're seeing essentially build out their moats. To sum up, I think this is all a show. We're not actually watching a debate. We're not seeing good versus bad, truth versus lies. We're not seeing any of this right now. All we're seeing is the landscape is being laid out so that a CBDC could be implemented. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see that somehow some group of politicians just stood up for the little guy and was like, no, we're not going to implement this dystopian monitoring. No, we think that freedom is important. And we think that standing up and making sure that those freedoms exist is important. That does it for our clip today. Like, subscribe, help us grow the channel. I will catch you all next week.